Hello YouTube, Rafiq here from Flying AI, and today we will continue our series of LLM tutorials. In the previous video, we covered a tool called Ollama, and we explained how you'll be able to set up your own ChatGPT-like model LLM locally, completely free, and with all the features of privacy and the freedom to choose any open source model you like, such as Llama 2, Mistral, or Gemma, for example. So lots of flexibility when you choose to run a local ChatGPT or LocalGPT model on your own machine. And today we are going to continue on this series of local GPT. One of the things I mentioned previously regarding Ollama is the fact that Ollama is mainly a command line tool. So it doesn't come out of the box with a UI. For this reason, today we're going to show you a quick way to create a simple UI that you can use to communicate with Ollama. And this tool is called Streamlit. This is a Python library for data scientists. I will go over some of its information in just a minute. This tutorial will require some programming background. You don't need to be a versed programmer. However, if you do have some Python background, you should be able to navigate this tutorial with no problem. I will include the code we're going to write for this tutorial in GitHub. I basically have the app or the code up and running in my GitHub repository, which I'm going to show you in a minute. I will include the link in the description. And these are the instructions to install and run the app. We'll cover all that in just a minute as well. Alright, that's on the side. Let's talk a little bit about Streamlit, my favorite Python library. So what is Streamlit? And for that reason, I use the app that I just created here to ask the same question to our Mistral model. And the response was, Streamlit is a Python library that enables developers to create interactive web applications using the popular Jupyter Notebook interface. This is very popular among data scientists, but recently for those who work on LLMs and need to set up an interface for their AI project, etc., are using extensively the tool. And I've seen a lot of posts on Google for developers writing tons of Streamlit apps for AI purposes. So Streamlit is basically a Python library that will enable you to create rapid web applications that are interactive and allows you to quickly interface and integrate with a variety of machine learning and data science in general Python libraries such as TensorFlow, Pandas, PyTorch, Skitlearner, or scikit-learn. Yeah, so that's what Streamlit is, and today we're going to quickly write a Streamlit application to talk with our Ollama and communicate directly with the models that we downloaded using Ollama. And this is the example app we're going to build. Very simple interface. We have a prompt here for the user to enter a question, and once the response is returned from the model, we are going to display it in this frame here. And also I'm including a feature here to select any model you wish. Of course, those models that you have installed or downloaded using Ollama. And also I'm including a feature here to store chat history. So you should be able to retrieve history for the last 7 days, and this is customizable. I limited the number of entries here to 100. If you would like to customize that, I will show you the parameter to customize the setting. So let's jump to the code, and I will explain to you line by line what the code does. And as I mentioned, if you're too lazy to follow with me, you can simply clone the repository or the project that I'm linking in the description, and you should be up and running in no time. All right, let's jump to the code. I have my VS Code here set up, and I created a new project called LocalGPT, and I also created one file called app.py. So we'll start with that. These are the different Python libraries that we need to import. One main library, which is very important in the field of LLM, LangChain. And I'm not going to go too much in detail as far as what LangChain is, but basically it's just an API for communicating and interfacing with language models. We will have a video in the future to cover LangChain extensively, but for the purpose of our tutorial today, we will just import LangChain and a number of methods here. One important LangChain method that we need to import today is the Ollama. And in this line here, number 4, we are importing Streamlit library. And to store our chat history, we are going to use a lightweight SQL database called SQLite. And as you can see, this is the database that is created once we run the program for the first time. Okay, in line number 10, we are going to create our connection object using SQLite 3 method we just imported here. We are going to name our database user.data.db. Alright, we create the connection here. And next we are going to create our very first query to create the database schema. And as the comment here says, if the table doesn't exist, it will create it. Otherwise, this line will be ignored. Okay, so we create the table and the database, and we commit. And now we are ready to start processing our application. Um, these are various functions that will be used throughout the app. And before I get to those aspects here, I will start introducing our Streamlit interface. The first thing we need to do is to render our title. And here I called it Ask Anything. And that's what we see here. So this is a title, and a title will get the highest, the biggest font in the definition. Next, we are going to invoke or prompt the user to select a model. So here we're using a method of Streamlit called sidebar, because we are going to display the drop-down in the sidebar section of the page. So this is the main body of the page, and for that you will just use st dot to invoke or to display the components in the main body. For the sidebar, you're going to use the sidebar method. And that's what we're using here. Next, we're calling the select box method here. So a bunch of API components provided by Streamlit. I invite you to jump to the components documentation. I'm trying to find the exact. I think here it's under, yes, under the API section, documentation section. And yes, that's the API reference. I will also include that in the description. Yeah, so remember we talked about the title component. This is how you implement it. They are given some very handy examples to not only show you how to write the component, but also a display of what the component will render. Yeah, take some time to browse the API reference and to learn what capabilities are offered by Streamlit. All right, let's continue our program. So the options that I included here are the 3 open source models, but of course you can add as many you like, and for that just go to Ollama website and check out the available models. Okay, next we are going to set up our prompt text area. And here we're asking a simple question: enter your prompt, which, to be honest, is not very meaningful. Let's change it to enter your question. I think that would be more appropriate. And once we save our file, you will be prompted to rerun the app to render the changes. So let's do that. And you can see that on the fly, the page reflected our recent change. All right, next. And remember, this prompt, whatever the user enters in the prompt will be stored in this variable called prompt. Okay, here we are going to display a subheader to display our chat history information on the sidebar right here. And this component here that loops through the available history elements and display them in this section here, we will cover in just a minute. Um, and yeah, so this is the function that will get the recent responses from the database and render them in that section. So the implementation is in this function here, recent. Matter of fact, let's jump to it and take a look right now. So if you right click, select go to definition, and so what we're doing is first we define our end date, which is now, using datetime Python library, and from there we define the start date, which is 7 days ago. So for that we just use this Python library, very handy, called time delta, and we give it an argument of days equals 7. Alright, from there we run our query using our connection object, and the query basically is we're going to retrieve the date saved, an ID from the table called history, and we give the date saved between the start date and the end date, which we defined previously. Okay, we fetch all the records from the query, and then we return our recent responses object. That would be what we return there. And then if we continue on our code here, this is how we render the information using our recent responses. So in recent responses, for each date saved displayed, and we just provide this label here, last 7 days, and we define this component as a radio component, and so this is how we get to select between the different entries. So you can see that previous history entries are displayed as we select them. Okay, and here we get to the most important part, which is creating our LLM object using LangChain and Ollama. So the method of Ollama we invoked using LangChain earlier. We're going to define our model object here, and the model is going to be whatever model we select from the dropdown, and then we use the LangChain callback manager to retrieve the response. So remember, this LLM object is as simple, that is what we're going to be using to invoke the model. Here we're defining a button called send. This is our send button, and I'm just wrapping this button around a spinner just for kind of giving a cue to the user that we're doing something. If no prompt is given, we are going to send a warning and let the user enter a prompt. Otherwise, we are going to run this measure execution time, which is also another wrapper around our main function that will invoke our model. And the function is process prompt. And what process prompt does, we invoke LLM using prompt. using user prompt. So LLM takes input, which is the prompt, the user input, and we're storing that response in this variable called response. Once it's done, we're going to use Streamlit method, which is success. Basically, we just wanted to create this container where we're going to display our response in a nice and neat way using the green color of success. So that's what this line is. And once we're done with that, we're going to save our response. And this is another method here that we use to store the history in the database. So let's jump to that function, which is right under here. And the save response takes two parameters, question and response. And additionally, we set up another variable or another parameter called date saved, where we grab the current date and time from date and time method, and then we insert the record using the question the user entered, the response from the model, the name of the model, the date the entry was saved into the database. Okay, we commit our record, and what else? This is our measure execution time, which takes a task function as input. So this is also straightforward, nothing fancy. We just wanted to kind of measure how long the response takes, just to measure the performance of our model running on our system, kind of have some comparison baseline between different models stored. Okay, this is just so I'm going to delete that. Yeah, that's pretty much what the model is, and pretty straightforward. Once you're done, and yeah, one last part, we are going to display the content or the body of each chat entry, and for that we're using a markdown line break or page break line. That's what st.markdown is for. Next, we are going to once we select the date, we are going to kind of fetch the detail of that selected record, and so we just run this query here to fetch all columns from the history table where the save date is equal to whatever the user selects. And then from there, once we retrieve the record, we are going to display them. So we just display them in this order. And the last, and not the least, we close the connection. Yeah, and that's it. That's all it takes to create a very simple, crude interface for Ollama and the locally stored LLMs that are running on your system. And I will show you now how to run the app. So the command to run your app is, first of all, you need to make sure you are inside. Well, before that, you need to install the requirements or dependencies for your app, and for that you need to run this command. I included this requirements document here that lists the requirements that are needed for our app, and the command is pip install -f, And here we give in the file name, which is a -f4 requirements.txt, and you hit enter. I don't need to hit enter in this case since I have them already installed. But once you install all the requirements, you should be able to this is assuming that you have Python already installed, and if you already have Anaconda, the version of Anaconda basically is a environment for data scientists that will give you out of the box all the libraries that you need to get up to speed with your Python data science project. So I assume you have that already set up. Sorry, I forgot to mention that in the beginning. But yeah, do make sure you have your Python already set up and your virtual environment already set up and running. If you're going with the default Anaconda environment, then make sure that base is the base virtual environment is already selected. How do you do that? Conda activate base. That's how you activate your environment. It should be by default, if that's what you're using, it should come up. Otherwise, just make sure you run that command. Yeah, if you are ready, just run Streamlit run and app.py. Hit enter. And just like that, this is our application. And let's try it. Okay, I'm going to use Mistral for this purpose, for this question. And let's see, what is the capital of Virginia? Okay, this is a very simple question. Should return fairly fast. Let's see how long it takes. All right, came back in 9 seconds. The capital of Virginia is Richmond, and that is correct. All right, so if we look at our history, this is the latest entry here, 1016. We selected. That's what we stored in the database. What is the capital of Virginia? That's Richmond. And if we browse earlier chat here, we asked about Streamlit. This is our response. We stored it, and the model was Mistral. Here is another one. What is the capital of Maryland? We use Orca Mini, and the answer was correct. Yeah, pretty much this is what it takes to create your first interface. And if you haven't used Streamlit before, congratulations. Now you have some basic skills with using Streamlit and building basically web applications you can use for any purpose. Personally, I use Streamlit for any UI project or web project that I need for any quick application presentation layer for my application. To me, Streamlit is like a Swiss knife that can be used for very a wide variety of purposes. I highly encourage you to learn and get familiar with Streamlit, because I'm sure you will come across it in the future. With that said, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.